Good afternoon. My name is Marcus Greeno. I'm the Technical and Lending Assistance Specialist at NiiJii Capital Partners. And today I'm your host of Nuts and Bolts of Kneecap. In the last couple of videos, we've talked a lot about assets and liabilities, business structures, what you need for your loans. In our last video, we talked about the organizational plan of a business plan. Well, today we're going to be talking a little bit about the marketing plan or the marketing section of the business plan. It's very important. So one of the really nice things that Kneecap was able to do this past winter was we went to this training, and it was put on by this group called Onabin. Basically, Onabin was based out of the Pacific Northwest, and it was a consortium of tribes that came together to develop basically like an entrepreneurship training for Native small business owners. And so what I thought was, when I was looking through some of the training materials, is that I thought this is a really good image to kind of talk about it, because it really gives you like a breakdown of kind of how you go about developing your marketing plan. So you kind of see where at the bottom, we're looking at the dream, like creating your vision, your mission. You talk about your values. I think values is a big thing. People always kind of, blow over the mission and the values, but I think it's really important, because there's a lot of companies in the world who utilize values, and a lot of their values are what dictate how they operate their business. So like, take for instance, everybody, you ever heard of, Snickers, M&Ms, all these different types of chocolate? Well, the Mars company has these 5 principles or 5 values within their company, and they utilize it in everything they do, every makeup of who they are and what they do. And these values were basically developed by like the founder. So the founder who founded Mars like over 100 years ago, the business is still operating today on those same values. So when you think about like long-term vision of your business, you think about like these companies who develop and really think out these value system, because you really want to create these values with your company. You want to be smart about it, because the values are going to dictate everything you do in the future. I think a lot of, if you read a little bit about the Mars Corporation or the Mars Company and the Mars family, whenever they come up to an issue that is related to the business, they look back and actually lean on those values that their, ancestor created for the company. And when they make decisions, especially like, tough decisions for the company. So I think that it's really important when you're dreaming about your business, that your mission, your vision, and your values are really concrete, because it's really what's going to dictate your business going forward. And then we get into, products and services, market research, market analysis, and you can kind of see that it's just building blocks more and more as you get up to the point where you start selling and you start learning about your customer base. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this. So when we talk about the marketing plan, it's basically a real breakdown of your overview and goals. You think about, you're analyzing your market. You develop a strategy from the evidence that you gather and the data that you gather from your market analysis, customer service, and then you look at implementation of a marketing plan, and then you want to evaluate that over time as well. So we look at overview and goals. I really like it's really what it comes down to is like, you talk about the overview, that's like the last section. It's a summary that gives you everything of the rest of the plan of how you want to complete it. When we talk about the goals, it's like the foundation. So you kind of want to start developing your goals of the marketing plan first before you start going further into the marketing plan. And it's going to be revised over and over again. Like, you're going to have to like really understand that like the marketing plan is going to be revised over and over again, because market's going to change and your business is going to change. And if you learn to adapt with your environment, the business environment or the marketing environment, you're going to like survive a lot of the issues that a lot of small business owners deal with. And that is like, going into debt, or, not being able to sell your product anymore. So when we talk about market analysis, we want to look at target markets. What do I mean by that? Well, you're going to look at areas like, take for instance, let's say you're in the business of cutting trees. Well, you're going to want to look at obviously the area that you live in. So right now where we are, we're in the Menominee Indian Reservation. So that's one target market, looking at who is in the area that needs help cutting down their trees. Then you look at, the surrounding communities. Maybe you look at, a city where there's more people and, like there's always people wanting to like cut down trees and add more space to their backyard. So, you want to really take that into consideration. And you also want to do your research and figure out, is there a need for that? Maybe you like cruise around, a neighborhood and you kind of look at all the trees and, take a diagnostics of it. And then from there, you start doing promotions in that neighborhood for, oh, if you need help with your trees, we cut it down, things like that. You got to be really smart about how you go about entering a market and understanding where you're going to be targeting. You can't just like say, I work in the whole state of Wisconsin. All right. That's a lot of turf to cover. Do you work in the inner cities? Do you work on the rural parts of the country, parts of Wisconsin? Maybe you're just focused on the northern territory of the state. You want to be able to focus in on your target markets. That's the biggest thing. When it comes to competition, you got to know your competition. If you don't know your competition, then you're going to lose half the battle because they're going to outcompete you because they're already existing business. They're already in the marketplace. People know who they are. But then you want to like look at, well, maybe their competition, like they're really bad with customer service. That's a knock on them. And that's something you can, utilize to your benefit when you're developing your plan. Market trends and market research. So what's really interesting about the market trends is that, there's a lot of things that happen in the economy and in markets for that matter, where sometimes there's a fad. So like right now, if we look at food, people love, protein bars, energy bars. That's like a big commodity right now in just people trying to be healthy. And one of the things that you want to look at is, what are the trends? What do people like? If you are in food, maybe we look at like Menominee Reservation currently right now. Well, right now, what's available is Subway and the casino, and we have the lot where it sells, chili, fry bread, and all the good hearty food that we love and hold dear to our hearts. Well, maybe Menominee Reservation needs a Mexican restaurant, or maybe it needs Chinese food. Like we source a lot of our to-go food from Shawano. What if there's an opportunity where we create a space where there is more, Menominee owned restaurants on the reservation and we don't have to go to Shawano, so it's really about understanding and tapping into your customer base and figuring out what they like and what they don't like. And that's how I consider a market trend. Best way to definition. Now we looked at market research. Well, when it comes to market research, you really want to understand how you go about understanding your market. We talked about target markets, we talked about competition, we talked about the marketing trends, but the market research, that's really important because you can kind of see how the businesses have been doing lately, and you can kind of see your competitors and like how well they're doing business wise. So a lot of the market research is doing that. Collecting surveys, that's a big thing. If you can go out and you can survey the community and figure out who likes what, or how do they like a certain service, and what's the best way of conducting yourself to give them that service. Those are some of the things when it comes to market research, and it's really important because you need to understand your demographics and what people like and what they don't like. Really, we go back to this whole thing of Onabin. Onabin has some great resources that we're trying to promote in our communities that we serve. So some of the resources for target markets and competition research, all of these are really helpful resources, when you look at, and this is all can be accessed online, available free to the public. And I think that it's really important because, when I was going to school and, studying business, I had to, pay as a student fee for all these databases that were applicable to the different things of developing a business plan. what's really nice is you can actually go through some of these different links and resources, and it's the same material that I was getting in school as well. So I really strongly suggest folks, we have the internet at our disposal, and these are some of the really good helpful tips and resources that you can utilize to help you out if you're stuck trying to understand target markets or understanding your competition for that matter. Same thing with industry trends, market trends, and marketing research. These are all really good, helpful tips and tricks to kind of help you, get over that slump if you're stuck on something when it comes to dealing with, developing your marketing plan. I think that, one of the things I really liked was this newspaper Source Plus and American newspapers and PR Newswire. There's a lot of press releases that go out from all these companies on these different industries related to business. And I think that it's really important to kind of read and see what they're doing. Because I think one of the biggest things that companies do when they market is they boast themselves about who they are and what they represent, what products and services they can deliver to the consumer or the customer. And I think that it's really important to study that, study your market, study your competitors, because what you can really do is like, let's say like your competitors are saying this, and this about who they are and what they're about. And maybe they're saying like any new businesses that come in are not going to be as effective as we are in what we do. Well, what you do is you kind of take everything that they're saying, like bits and pieces, and like why like they play on their strengths. And then you kind of want to slant that to basically, push forward what you're trying to push forward, and kind of say, well, our competitors say this, but this is what we're really all about. Or maybe you don't even talk about your competitors. You just talk about all the things that you can do better than what your competitors can do, and not even like, mudsling, as we like to say on the reservation. You don't need a mudsling. You can be very positive in your message to, the market. And I think you can definitely make a really big impact. But I think that at the same time it's really important to do the research, and all these helpful resources are available to you at your fingertips. When you really get down to the bare bones of a marketing strategy, we're looking at, obviously, you want to give a description of why you're doing what you're doing. Then you want to look at, methods, sale and distribution. And some of this stuff is not applicable to some businesses that are offering services compared to a product. But yeah, so method of sale and distribution, you kind of want to know like how you're going to get it out to the consumer or the customers. Go back to packaging. Packaging is important. You want to make sure that it's like cost effective, but it's still catchy, pricing. Maybe there's a cost effective way that you do it that your competitors can't do. Then we look at branding. I think branding is one of the most important things you can do as a business, because your brand is going to show who you are. So we go back to, I was discussing about Mars and the Mars company. Well, M&M's is totally branded. Snickers, a brand. Like everybody knows that brand. People don't know the company. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but they know the brand. So it's really important to establish your brand. Maybe you go back to being a tree service guy. Maybe like you're the only one that can scale a tree and provide that sort of service to people who need their trees to be taken care of, but they don't want to cut the whole thing down. Maybe as a food vendor, you have the biggest fry bread as big as your face on the reservation that you sell to everybody. Maybe you have a wild rice dish that's 100 years old, and it came from your great grandmother, and they made the wild rice dish. So think about it. Branding is really important. Now, when we talk about database marketing, now that's an interesting thing. When we deal with, like, let's say you have a retail shop, or you're an artist, for instance, and you need to figure out how to keep in touch with your clients, or maybe your customers, for instance. Database marketing. Squarespace is probably one of the most amazing pieces of technology available out there. Not only do you have ability to like process credit cards, but you can also gather people's name, phone number, email. you can gather all of that information by just selling them a product. And then from there, you can gather their email and then send them marketing material by email to kind of promote what you're doing. I think that's one of the most effective tools we have at our disposal these days is Squarespace. It's amazing. It's a database that you can basically compile all of your customers. Sales strategies. It's really important to understand how are you going to sell your product and what is the strategy you're going to implement and to ensure that your sales remain above average and not below. Because if you're below, then obviously you're operating in the red and you're not in the black. And what I'm talking about is financials. So strategies are important. Maybe you're trying to do some work around developing more people to be using your product. Well, then you target certain demographics. We go back to that whole thing of marketing research. Like all this stuff is combined and like it's all one big fluid, holistic machine that's working together. That marketing plan has to be, utilizing the data that you gather from your research in order to create your strategies for selling stuff. Same thing with sales, incentives, and promotions. Like you're not going to want to sell a product and just keep putting it on sale all the time. You're going to want to watch your competitors and when they have their sales and like how much they take off their products, because then you can like mimic what they're doing too. Promotions too. It's like maybe you buy one, get one, or maybe you're saying, 2 tree limb cuttings for the price of one. Like there's different ways to go about it. You just have to really think about how you're going to go about promoting your business and at the same time, ensuring that folks want to come back to you. I think one of the really interesting things is I know a Native woman-owned business in southern Wisconsin, tax preparation. What's really cool though is they're using like giveaways and sweepstakes. So like if you sign up and you refer a friend, you get put into a drawing and you get a 50-inch TV. Like that's pretty cool. Those are really good strategies for promotion. Same thing with advertising. How are you going to advertise? You're going to advertise on Facebook? Are you going to advertise on the radio? TV is always just really expensive. So it's always not a really good idea to utilize TV, but radio is really good. Social media. And then there's this one thing called Google AdWords. I think it's really awesome. I learned about it when I was working in Washington, D.C. But basically, Google AdWords, you type in a word. So like take, for instance, we go back to like tree cutting. Maybe it's like you pay for the word tree and you pay for the word cutting. Well, anybody that's going to Google search tree cutting or tree cutting service on Google is going to hit you pay that amount of money for that certain word in that Google search and boom, like you're usually at the top of the list. And that's paid advertising. Really good opportunity because everybody uses Google. Public relations. It's important that if anything goes wrong with your business, that you have a really strong individual that is on staff or you yourself understand how to deal with the public, whether it be like getting newspaper articles written about your business or ensuring that a customer is not like super upset with how they felt with the product that they bought from you. It's really important. Like public relations, I can't say it enough because you can turn, a really bad situation into a really good situation if you have a really good like PR person who understands that. And it's important, really is. We go to networking. Now, networking, I think of it as going to trade shows, going to conferences, and also just interacting with people in the industry. Some of the clients that we work with at NiiCap, they rely heavily on their networks to kind of get business, and sometimes their network helps them and sometimes they help their network. It's really important. Like I can't tell you enough. Networking is so important and it's really important when it comes to marketing and actually getting out and being a business owner. Customer service, man, that's big because sometimes people aren't really good at working with individuals. And so, their customer service isn't that great. And then as a result, their business suffers. When people say like the customer is always right, they're always right to a certain point, because you don't want customers coming in and like taking advantage of your goodwill and good gesture, but you want to ensure that you have the customer walk away feeling better than how they felt when they came in if they were disgruntled about a product or a service. Customer service, man, crucial. If you're really nice to people, you're really good to people, you're a really good communicator, you'll definitely go far in your industry and what you're doing. I can't say that enough. So we look at the implementation of the marketing plan. You're going to want to like plan it out, understand, and that's the whole thing of having that marketing plan. It's a plan. Like you're carrying out the plan step by step. So that's why you develop it and you take time to develop it, because it's a big undertaking. And if you don't have a good marketing strategy, then like you go back to the drawing board and you create something that's going to work more effective. But implementation is crucial. Like you just have to stick by it. Once you create the plan, you stick by the plan and you see it through until the end. And then, we look at the assessment of marketing effectiveness, and it should always be looked at every year, if not every 2 years, if it's working. You have to change it up if it doesn't work, and you have to watch what your competitors do. Because if you come out as a new company and you're putting out a product on the market and you're selling it, like your competitors are going to watch and they're going to look at it, they're going to like study it, and either they're going to mimic it and create something similar, or they're going to create something better. So you want to be able to watch your competitors. So like take for instance, there's a native owned business in South Dakota. It's called Tonka Bar. Tonka Bar is probably one of the most amazing nutritional energy bars I've ever had in my life. It's got bison meat in it. It's got cranberries. It's an old traditional recipe from the Lakota culture, and they use it for their warriors. So whenever the warriors would go out, they would eat these Tonka bars, and they eat it and they keep them nourished. I can't tell you enough. If you ever find a Tonka bar, you should buy it, you should eat it, and you can see, how much energy you really have. It's amazing. So with Tonka Bar, they came out in the market and they started promoting their product, and it was awesome. People loved it. But then you had these, you had these, God, I don't know what else to say. You had these yuppies come in from Austin, Texas, and they created this company called Epic, and they started making these Epic bars with bison and like bacon mixed in together. Like they were basically trying to mimic what Tonka Bar was doing. And their brand was really just simple. If you ever go to the store and you see an Epic bar, you'll see that it's just got an animal on it and it stands out. So it's important. That's important. We go back to branding. It's important. Well, Epic took over a lot of the shares that Tonka Bar was doing, and Tonka like started losing its shelf space. It wasn't until the pandemic hit when like all the bug out people and the doomsday people and all these people who thought it was the end of the world, they started buying Tonka Bar by the truckload. And Tonka Bar like is now back in the black. Before it was in the red because they're, competing with Epic, who now is owned by General Mills, big, large food company. They were bought out. And then, that's the whole thing. I can't say this enough. Like you're always going to want to be on top of your game when it comes to the marketing plan, like through and through. I can't say it enough. Because things like that can happen where a competitor steps in, they try and muscle their way in and, promote a product that you have, but they just change it up. Maybe they put the packaging on differently and they're not using a traditional, indigenous recipe. They're just throwing in some bacon because everybody in America loves bacon. And, that's how it is. I can't speak for my Neopet family. That's a whole other story there. I got a lot of love for Menominee. But that's really what it comes down to, gang, is marketing plan is crucial, and ensuring that you implement it correctly, you take time and develop it, and you ensure that it's effective, and you evaluate it every year, if not every 6 months. Like just be on top of it. That's the best we can really say. That's all we really have today on the marketing plan. We have resources available at NiiCap for anybody that needs help with just understanding how to fill it out. I'm going to reference the Onabin handbook that we have now available to people to come in. We can make copies of it. There's really good, helpful tips and tricks in there too, just to kind of help you if you're stuck on your marketing plan. They have really cool exercises available for people to kind of, get your mind working and thinking and kind of help you, build your marketing plan. So I'd like to thank you all today for tuning in to the nuts and bolts of NiiCap. And I'm your host, Marcus Greeno, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.